The rain was still falling when Aisha spotted it on the edge of the pavement, a slim black leather wallet soaked but still intact. She bent down and picked it up, shaking off the drops and looking around for anyone who might have dropped it. The street was busy with umbrellas bobbing up and down, but no one seemed to be searching frantically or even glancing at the ground. Aisha tucked it carefully into her tote bag and hurried toward the small bookshop where she worked part-time. Inside the shop, she took out the wallet and set it on the counter before unlocking the door for the day. She had grown up poor and knew how precious even a single note could be for someone. She opened it hesitantly, only to check for an ID card. She saw a driver's license, a few credit cards, and more cash than she had ever held in her hand at once. There were at least several thousand in neat bills. For a moment her stomach twisted with temptation, but she quickly shook it off. She had promised herself that no matter how hard life got, she would never compromise her honesty. She carefully located the card inside with the name Imran Shah and an address not far from the city center. The rest of the day Aisha kept the wallet in her bag. She could not leave the shop to return it right away, and she had bills to pay with her tiny salary. When she finished her shift, she walked across town in the drizzle until she found herself in front of a towering glass building with security guards at the entrance. She hesitated, staring at the name on the signage, Shaw Enterprises. It could not be a coincidence, could it? The ID had mentioned Imran Shah. Aisha approached the guard shyly, explaining that she had found a wallet belonging to Mr. Imran Shah. The guard eyed her suspiciously before calling someone on the phone. A few minutes later, a young man emerged from the revolving doors. He looked no older than 27, tall and sharp-featured, with hair still damp as if he had just come from the rain. He was dressed in a tailored navy suit, but his eyes were tired and his expression serious until they landed on her. "You found my wallet?" he asked in a tone that carried both surprise and relief. Aisha pulled it from her bag and extended it to him. "Yes, I was worried you might need it right away, so I came after work. Everything is inside just as I found it." He took it, checked briefly, then looked back at her with disbelief. "You mean you did not take anything, not even the cash?" Aisha frowned, slightly insulted. "I did not open it to take anything. I only looked for your ID so I could return it. Money does not belong to me, it belongs to you." For the first time that evening his lips curved into a smile. "Thank you. Most people would not have done what you did. Please let me reward you." "No," she said firmly, shaking her head. "I did not do it for a reward. My mother always taught me that honesty is not something to be sold. I should be going now." Imran stared at her as if he had never met someone like her before. He was used to people treating him with fake politeness once they learned he was wealthy. He had inherited the company after his father passed, and though he was young, he had worked hard to keep it successful. But everywhere he turned, people either wanted his favor, his influence, or his money. This young woman in her simple clothes, with rain plastering her hair to her cheeks, had just refused a reward most people would beg for. "Wait, at least let me drive you home," he said impulsively. "No thank you," Aisha replied. "I am used to walking." Before he could insist, she had already turned away, blending into the crowd. He stood there, wallet in hand, watching her disappear. Something about her honesty and her quiet dignity stayed with him long after she had gone. The next day Aisha returned to her routine. She opened the bookshop, dusted the shelves, and smiled at the handful of customers who trickled in. She loved books, even though she could not afford to buy many for herself. Each day she stole a few moments to read in the corner whenever her manager was not watching. She did not know that Imran Shah had spent half the night thinking about her, and by morning had decided he wanted to see her again. 2 days later he appeared at the bookshop doorway. Aisha almost dropped the stack of novels in her hands when she saw him. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I came to thank you properly," Imran said calmly. "Since you refused money, maybe I can thank you another way. May I buy a book?" He glanced around the shop and smiled. "You seem to love them." Which one would you recommend? Aisha blinked surprised. She named one of her favorite novels and he bought it without question. Then he lingered leaning against the counter. Would you join me for coffee sometime, he asked. She hesitated. She did not know him beyond that wallet, and his polished suit intimidated her. But his eyes were sincere and she thought there was no harm in one cup of coffee. All right, she agreed softly. Their first meeting at the cafe was awkward at first. Aisha sipped her tea quietly while Imran asked about her work, her studies, her family. She told him about her mother who worked as a seamstress, her younger brother who was still in school, and her dreams of someday becoming a teacher, though money had always been too tight for her to finish her degree. He listened without judgment and shared bits of his own story, though he did not mention his fortune. Instead, he spoke of his father's illness, the struggle of responsibility, and how lonely success could be. As days turned into weeks, they met more often. Imran admired how Aisha never pretended to be someone she was not. She was kind to waiters, polite to strangers, and full of quiet strength. For Aisha, Imran was different from other men she had met. He never boasted, never tried to impress her with expensive things, and always listened as if every word she spoke mattered. Yet she still did not know who he really was. He introduced himself only as Imran and she assumed he was an ordinary office worker. One evening, however, as they walked past the tall glass tower of Shaw Enterprises, Aisha paused, unconsciously glancing at the name on the building. Imran watched her and felt a pang of guilt. He knew he should tell her the truth, but fear held him back. What if she too began to see him differently? Little by little feelings grew between them, unspoken but clear. Imran found excuses to stop by the bookshop, buying books he did not need just to see her smile. Aisha began to look forward to his visits, her heart quickening each time he walked in. But a part of her wondered if their worlds were too far apart. The truth hovered like a storm cloud waiting to break. The storm finally came the day Aisha's manager told her that the bookshop would be closing down. The owner could not keep up with rent and sales were falling. Aisha felt her chest tighten as she held the notice in her hands. This small shop had been more than work to her, it had been her escape, her comfort, her dream in tiny fragments. When Imran visited that evening, he immediately noticed her quietness. What happened? He asked softly, leaning on the counter. They are closing the shop, she admitted. I do not know what I will do next. Jobs are not easy to find and I still have to help my mother and brother. Imran studied her face and felt the ache in her voice. He wanted to tell her not to worry, that he could provide for her, that she would never have to struggle again. But he bit back the words because he knew she would never accept pity or charity. Come have dinner with me tonight, he said gently. Aisha started to refuse, but something in his tone made her nod. That night over dinner at a modest cafe, Imran spoke carefully. I think you deserve better opportunities, Aisha. Have you ever thought of teaching again? Her eyes grew wistful. Every day. But it costs money to finish my degree and that is not something I can afford. He reached across the table, almost touching her hand but stopping short. If someone helped you, if there was a scholarship or sponsor, would you accept it? If it came without strings attached, maybe, she admitted. I do not want to owe anyone. Imran smiled faintly. Some gifts come only because someone believes in you. She tilted her head, not fully understanding but grateful for his kindness. That night as they parted, she felt warmth inside her chest but also fear. The more she grew close to Imran, the more she wondered who he truly was. The truth unraveled one afternoon in the most unexpected way. Aisha had gone to the central library where she often browsed through old newspapers. She was reaching for a book when a folded magazine fell from the shelf. On the cover was a glossy photo of Imran Shah in a suit standing in front of the very glass building she had passed many times. The headline read, "Youngest Millionaire CEO Expands His Empire." Her hands trembled as she stared at the face she knew so well. Imran Shah. The same name she had seen on the wallet. She sat down hard on a chair, her mind reeling. He had been lying to her all this time. He was not an ordinary man with simple struggles. He was one of the wealthiest men in the city. That evening when he came to see her, she did not smile as usual. Instead, she stood stiffly, her arms folded. "Why did you not tell me who you were?" she demanded, her voice sharp with hurt. Imran froze, realizing the secret was no longer his to control. "Aisha, please, I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid." "Afraid of what? Of me?" she asked bitterly. "Afraid you would stop being yourself around me," he confessed. "Everyone changes when they know. They see only the money, not the man. But you, Aisha, you looked at me as if I was just human. I did not want to lose that." She shook her head, tears prickling her eyes. "You should have trusted me with the truth. Now I do not know if I can trust you." The silence between them was heavy. Imran wanted to reach for her to beg her to understand, but she turned away and walked off into the night. Days passed with no word between them. Aisha felt torn, her heart missing him but her mind full of doubt. Her mother noticed her sadness and gently asked what was wrong. When Aisha explained, her mother sighed. "My daughter, honesty is a treasure, but so is forgiveness. If that young man truly respects you, then wealth should not matter. Judge him not by what he has but by how he treats you." Meanwhile, Imran wrestled with the emptiness he felt without her. He had everything that money could buy, yet her absence left him hollow. Finally, he decided he would risk everything to prove his sincerity. One morning, Aisha received a letter delivered by hand. It was from the local community center where her mother sometimes sewed for charity. Inside was an invitation to a small event announcing new scholarships for underprivileged students. Confused, she attended with her mother. The hall was filled with young hopefuls and families. On the stage stood Imran Shah, dressed simply, no suit, just a plain shirt. He spoke humbly into the microphone. "Education should not be a privilege for the few. Today I am creating a fund to support students who dream of teaching, healing, building, and changing the world. And this began because of one person who reminded me that honesty still exists." Gasps filled the hall as eyes turned to Aisha. She felt her cheeks burn as Imran stepped down from the stage and walked toward her. "I wanted to thank you properly," he said, his voice soft but steady. "You returned my wallet when you had nothing and refused a reward when you needed it most. You reminded me of values I had almost forgotten. I may be a millionaire, but I am still just a man who hopes you will give me another chance." The room faded around them as she searched his face. There was no arrogance, no pride, only sincerity. Slowly Aisha nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I only wanted you to be honest with me," she whispered. "And I promise I will never hide from you again," he vowed. From that day forward their bond deepened, not through riches or grand gestures but through small acts of trust. Imran often visited her home, helping her brother with studies, eating her mother's simple meals as if they were feasts. Aisha in turn encouraged him to use his position for good, reminding him that wealth found meaning only when it served others. Months later, when she finally resumed her degree, supported quietly by the very scholarship he had built, she realized how much her life had changed. She still lived simply, still cherished honesty above all, but now she had someone by her side who respected her for exactly who she was. And Imran, the young millionaire who once thought he had everything, discovered that his true fortune began the day a girl with rain in her hair handed back his lost wallet without taking a penny.